Hello YouTube, George from Medusa Herbs here, back with another video. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the state of the Hognose Market and where I think it's going to be going in the next couple of years. Before I get started, I do have a couple disclaimers. First of all, I've never actually sold any Hognose snakes, so I'm just offering my opinion based on what I've seen on MorphMarket, what other people are posting on YouTube, Instagram, etc. Secondly, this is just my opinion. This is not anything in concrete. It's just based on my experience in retail and wholesale sales throughout my life, being a purchasing agent. As I said, just things I've seen and kind of infer based on economic supply and demand, that sort of thing. Lastly, in the second part of this video, I'm going to be citing a few examples from MorphMarket. I've done my best to try to hide any identifying information because I'm not trying to call out or single out any breeders, vendors, or suppliers. However, if you see one of your animals listed, please know that I'm not mentioning or attacking you personally. I'm just trying to talk about trends or things that I see in the market. So with that, the first thing I'd like to talk about is the difference between a hobbyist and a breeder. Obviously, if you're someone who's trying to make this a business, you're going to have different needs than someone who's just pursuing it as a hobby. I myself consider this to be a hobby, even though I will be incorporating an LLC later on. Maybe making some t-shirts to sell, that sort of thing, vending some expos, but I'm just doing the LLC to keep the business income separate from my personal income, so it's strictly for tax purposes. If you are a breeder or considering becoming a breeder for Western Hognose, the first thing I would say would be don't get into this as a business. You will not make money. You will make money, but I don't know that you can compete with people who are already out there. People like Jeff Galewood, Snake Discovery, Fathom Hogs, J&C Hognose, the list goes on and on and on. There are plenty of people who have been doing this longer than you will have been doing it, so they've got a head start on all the good morphs, all the business contacts. People are going to be looking at them for shows. So if you're going to get into this as a hobby and want to sell off some of your extra snakes, that's great. But if you're thinking about getting into this as a business, I would really consider that and possibly consider doing something else. Before I got my first snake back in December, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube like a lot of other people do. One of the videos that stuck out to me was by Leviathan Snakes. I will put a link in the description for that video, but they talked about what it takes to run a business breeding snakes. And one of the things that stuck out to me was if you want to generate $50,000, you have to think of that as being, I need to sell 50 $1,000 snakes or 100 $500 snakes. And it goes down from there. If you're only producing $250 snakes, you need to sell even more, which means you need to produce even more, which means you need to have more breeding stock, which means more and more expenses. So, hobbyist versus breeder, if you're going to be a hobbyist, that's great. If you're thinking about getting into Western Hognose or any snake species really, to turn it into a business, due diligence, like seriously research it. I think the last time I looked on MorphMarket, there were over 30,000 ball pythons listed. I can't imagine trying to be a ball python breeder right now with that much saturation in the market. So much supply, there's only going to be so much demand. I think personally that over the next 3 years, you're going to see the prices on Western Hognose drop dramatically. It may not be as low as some things like corn snakes or ball pythons where you can pick up an animal for $25 or $50, but I do think the prices are going to come down when I show you some of the MorphMarket listings that I have for the second part of this video. I think you'll understand a little bit why. People like Snake Discovery recently expanded their breeding facility and expanded a lot into Western Hognose. There are a lot of people who are getting into that market right now. There's just going to be more animals out there, which is going to increase supply, and there's only going to be so much demand. I looked on MorphMarket back on August 2nd. There were 1,905 Western Hognoses listed for sale. Of that number, 1,200 were born in 2023 or earlier. So 1,200 plus animals that maybe they were holdbacks that somebody decided to get rid of. Maybe somebody's getting out of Western Hognose, getting rid of old breeders, whatever the case may be. But well over 2/3 of the animals that were available at that time were from 2023 or before. Animals like maybe didn't sell. Again, when I get to the MorphMarket listings, you'll see a lot of animals that have been listed 6 months, 8 months, up to a year, and aren't selling. So the supply is going up, but the demand isn't necessarily increasing to meet that. Now, of course, if you are a large breeder, if your name is Jeff Galewood, you can charge a premium, like because you have to charge a premium. The amount of money he's invested in racks, cages, traveling to shows, substrate, food, medicine, all that other stuff, he has to be able to recoup that somehow. And so he's on the cutting edge. He's producing a lot of rare and interesting morphs with a lot of variety, but there are a lot of people that are catching up on those as well. Like I said, Fathom Hogs is doing some amazing creatures. JNC Hognose. Yeah, Snakeful Grace at Urban Dinos. I mean, there are a lot of different people that are getting into those, what used to be niche or very rare morphs. Sunburst, you're seeing them all the time now on MorphMarket. Triple A's, all the time on MorphMarket, and a lot of them aren't selling. So, just some additional things to think about. Since I did mention rare morphs, I think that those are always going to have, obviously, if something is rare, unique, you can charge a premium for it. Swiss chocolates, the price is pretty stable on those, but has come down some. I think it's floating around the, $6,000 to $8,000 range, where it used to be maybe 8 to 10 a couple of years ago. So I do believe that the price on those will continue to come down. But if you have an extremely rare morph, if the skull head morph is fully fleshed out and developed, the price for that's going to be super high. I'm 53. I remember 25 years ago when Dave and Tracy Barker paid, I think it was $25,000 for some of the, I think it was like second set of albino boa constrictors that were in the United States. I mean, that's a lot of money, but it was a really, really rare morph. And now you can have that same snake for probably 150. So rare morphs will always continue to demand a premium, but the amount of rare morphs is actually going down because more people are breeding sunbursts, moonbeams, moon dusts, whatever else may be out there. So things to think about. Yeah, so that's it for right now. I'm going to go inside, get on the computer, show you a few examples of what I'm talking about from MorphMarket, and then we'll go on from there. All right, so here we have some examples from MorphMarket that I was talking about. First one up is a Swiss chocolate. Obviously, there's a very limited number of people who are going to be able to afford an animal like this. It's probably going to be a breeder, someone looking to start a new project. This particular animal you can see was first posted in January of this year. Been sitting there for 7 months with no takers. The price has been dropped on sale. It's down 10%. Still never sold. Again, limited number of people that are going to be available to afford an animal like this. So you have to consider demand when you're looking at snakes. Lower priced example would be this Extreme Red AAA. Again, listed in January of this year, been sitting for 6 or 7 months, no takers, even at $500, $550. There's so many of these animals out there right now that if your price isn't good, people aren't going to take it. This one even has a possible lavender head to it, but didn't sell. So those are a couple examples of how demand can affect what you're going to be able to get for an animal. All right, this next example is what I would call an overpriced animal. Axanthic het storm cloud. You can see in this image it was listed first for $1,350, didn't sell. It was put on sale once, they dropped the price down to $1,000, and then later on, just in the time I've been watching this one, dropped it down to $950. Again, probably didn't sell. Been on MorphMarket for 6 or 7 months with no takers. That means the animal is overpriced. I mean, I guess in some instances, you may just have an animal listed and nobody's looking to buy that particular animal. Maybe nobody wants an Axanthic het storm cloud. But again, prices are probably going to need to come down on some of these animals. Another example here, Super Arctic, Super Anaconda, het albino, nice looking snake, $1,250 the started asking price. This one's been listed since September of 2023, still hasn't sold. They've listed it at sale 2 different times, still no takers. You can see on the second instance where they dropped the price down to $275, the sale ended 38 minutes after I took this picture.
So nobody wanted it at that 975 price. Again, an overpriced snake in my opinion. Just to show that it doesn't have to be the really cool designer morphs that can be overpriced. Here's a regular super Arctic. First listed August of last year, so been on MorphMarket for almost a year. No one has purchased this animal. $650 asking price, dropped the price down to 500. Nobody wanted it. Again, could just be that nobody's looking for a super Arctic at the time this was listed for sale. But with it being on MorphMarket for so long and no one taking that animal up, that lets me know that that animal is probably overpriced at $650. Sometimes, even when you drop the price, your animal may not sell. A couple examples coming up. Here's an albino het lavender, possibly Arctic. Again, been on MorphMarket quite a while, 7, 8 months. $595 was too much. They've dropped the price all the way down to $295 on sale. Still nobody took this animal. There were 2 hours, you can see almost 3 hours left in the auction or sale price at $295. Nobody wanted this animal. Again, could just be that nobody's looking for an albino. When the sale was up, but you would think that in the time it's been listed, if it had been at a good price to begin with, somebody would have snatched up that animal if it had been a reasonable price. So sometimes dropping the price doesn't necessarily allow you to sell an animal. Another example here, Arctic anaconda, het albino, hasn't been on MorphMarket, but about, let's see, over a year. Um, 385. That's just a decent price, but nobody wanted it at that price. Dropped the price down to 250. Maybe somebody took it in that 35 hours that were left on that sale. But again, the fact that that animal sat on MorphMarket for over a year tells me that the price was too high for that animal. The prices need to come down. Another thing that lets me know that the prices need to come down is when people do put animals up for auction and they have a reserve listed and the animal doesn't even get to the reserve price. A couple examples here. Here's a Conda, het albino, het sable. So a sunburst possible maker. Been on MorphMarket for 5 months. They put it on auction. They got 3 bids for this animal. I don't know why. Again, maybe there's just not enough demand in the market. Maybe people aren't looking for, that particular animal while that sale or auction is going on. But those are the types of things that indicate to me that there's not enough demand and too much supply, or the prices are going to have to come down for people to be able to buy these animals. Here's another example, an albino superconda, 50% het lavender, been on MorphMarket, again, 10 months. They put it up for auction, got some bids, but didn't meet the reserve price on this animal. Nobody wanted it, or weren't willing to pay more for that particular animal at this particular time. Again, all just indicators that price is going to have to change in the future as more and more people are breeding and producing hognose. So it's because of everything that I've mentioned in the video that I have come up with this planned pricing guide for when I do finally produce babies in 2026. As I said, I'm a hobbyist. I'm not looking to do this as a job or make a living off of this. I just enjoy keeping the animals, and breeding them is part of the enjoyment of keeping them. If I produce babies, that's great, but I'm not looking to get rich. Um, so as you can see here, highest price, $300 for a Super Yeti or a Super Mai Tai. Um, Today when I looked on MorphMarket, the cheapest Super Yeti was $1,500. The cheapest Super Mai Tai was $5,000. Now, a lot of people would say, George, why would you, charge so little for their animals? They're worth way more than that. They're not worth more than that if nobody wants them. As you've seen in some of the examples I've given from MorphMarket, I don't need something sitting out there for a year. It'd be better off to me to just go ahead and get those animals into new homes, let people enjoy them. I have snakes that I like. And again, I'm not looking to make money or a ton of money. I don't know a lot of hobbies where you can make, a couple $1,000s. If I produced I have 3 breeding pairs. If I produced 50 or 60 eggs, average price, $200 each, that's 10 to 12 grand off of a hobby. None of my animals cost me that. All of my animals put together did not cost me that much money. Um, and I think I have $2,000 into supplies so far within the first year. Again, I'm not looking to do this as a business. I'm just looking to enjoy the animals. So again, something to think about coming down the road. I think there's going to be a lot more animals coming into the market. I think that's going to affect prices on a downward trend for all of the morphs, except for the really, really rare ones, Swiss chocolate and whatever else may come up that people are develop. But just things to think about as you're breeding these animals and looking towards the future. Again, my opinions only. Never sold any hognose snakes. Haven't sold any snakes in over 25 years. So take it for what you will. Appreciate you watching. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.